Hey everyone, it's been a while, I acknowledge that. This is a long overdue review of Shadow Warrior by Chris Bunch, the complete saga in one stunning volume. As in, if we look inside, we get past the fun stuff, there are 3 books and a short story kind of tagged on to the end. Not that the short story happens after the 3 books, but that's by the by. So my relationship to this book, first of all, is long-winded. So cutting it down as short as possible. When I first started reading through the Harry Potter books and I first got into reading, I picked up 3 books after I finished the Harry Potter books to see if I wanted to carry on reading with other stuff. I picked up 2 classic sci-fi books of a different vintage to this, and this book here. This being the 3rd book, I will call it. And all 3 of those books pretty much nailed it. They just hit the nail on the head and made me go, yep, definitely a reader, definitely committed to reading. So this book definitely has a certain bias in me, so forgive me for what it's worth. It's probably not as objective as it could be. So just looking at that picture, I don't know if you can see the gun in his hand, and the just kind of awesome purpley blue colours, and the guy in the long coat and the shades. It's how to describe it all without giving spoilers. This guy here is Joshua Wolf, and Joshua Wolf is a kind of bounty hunter, a little bit assassin, a little bit like just badass. He's very cool. It's very much a Bond level kind of cool. Hit with the ladies, like almost untouchable in combat, kind of very well done. When I first read this, my memories that I came away with was it was really cool, with the exception of the overarching bad, which was a bit odd, which we'll get to. But this, as I reread it now, at 40 years old, this is kind of like a 40-year-old's dream. He's just so cool and slick and constantly, like, never-endingly successful at this, that, and the other. It's definitely a bloke's book. Feel free to disagree if you'd like. But yeah, we join in after the war, and the war was between the humans and the Allah. Super weird to say out loud, I have to say. But the Allah were this species that humanity met in the stars, and we started to kind of cooperate a little bit, and then it all went sideways. There was a big war. It was very nasty. It was very horrible. And then one day, the Allah just poof, gone across the entire universe. They're just gone. And there's a big clash of cultures between human culture and the Allah culture, which is really nice to kind of get into, to see how different beings can be and how inhuman it might be to experience them. But Joshua Wolf, which is not really spoilers, minor spoilers maybe. Joshua Wolf is captured by them at a young age, and he learns some of their culture, he learns some of their ways, and it gives him that little bit of edge, turns him that little bit superhuman. Other people can't kind of do what he can do. And for a time, as this book sets out, it can be a little bit of a slow burn. There's certain sections in the book where, or books, I should say, is a trilogy wrapped into one. But there's certain sections where he goes undercover, and they can be a bit slow, and there's a lot of Bond-esque things. He goes gambling a lot and does a lot of subterfuge and espionage for his own ends. But yeah, it's slow burn, but it's still good. The prose throughout the book by Bunch is sometimes so beautifully clear and precise, and then other times, and this is by far the minority of those times, it's really bloody obscure and quite hard to follow. But like I say, it's a minority of times, so it doesn't really get in the way. This particular well-read book by Orbit, this has a couple of errors, just like minor editing errors, like the word "the" is spelt TBE rather than THE, and that just seems like a really silly error, but there it is, it made it in. And the word house spelt with a K at the start instead of a H. Like these little like niggles just seem to have threaded in, and oddly, it's only in about the middle towards the middle end of the book, and all the rest seems to be fine. But yeah, like as we go through the books and the stories, I don't want to spoil anything, but the feel of the book feels like, in this 2025 world that we live in, this feels very Firefly. So like the cities and the culture and the power rests in these really high-end, high-technology, space-age places. And then in the outlaw worlds, there's people who come by with spaceships, but the people on the ground are, farmers. They're like the old American West, like they're gun-wielding, they'll take what they can. It kind of screams, having recently watched Firefly, maybe that had a big influence, I don't know. But I got Firefly vibes from this, and at a point, especially in book 3, it almost felt episodic. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Shadow Warrior was read by Joss Whedon before he made Firefly. Maybe. But yeah, it even comes down to, like, in one of the old West towns that he's in, there's a preacher there who delivers a kind of soft theology, which is just soft enough not to annoy me too much. But yeah, it's a really good book. It's an epic romp through the stars. I do have an issue with how it ends. In fact, I have an issue with the overarching bad, as I said before. The overarching bad, it seems to have crossed over into film as well, in a slightly different form. But the overarching bad in this is a kind of red fuzz, and that's kind of it. It's just this kind of ever-eating, ever-chomping, creeping red fuzz, and that's kind of it. It's just not the best threat or thing to tell, I suppose. It does very much play a background role, but it's the background kind of gently pushing through books 1 and 2. It's a bit more prominent in book 3, but not that much. But yeah, I don't particularly like this red fuzz, and it just reminded me of the period in Hollywood where everything became like a black cloud. Like all the bads, all the films, all the CGI just had like a kind of black cloud effect, like a black particle, or it's kind of typified for me in Man of Steel when he fights the black cloud that comes out of the world engine. It's just, yeah, it was madness. I didn't appreciate it, but there it is. So yeah, 3 books in one, and the short story that's tagged on at the end. It's well written. It's sci-fi core, and at the end it highlights some of the other works done by Chris Bunch, which I have not come across. But Sten and Dragon Master, both books that I probably should be interested in looking up, because this is one of the books that made me into a reader, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So yeah, if you've read Shadow Warrior or some of Shadow Warrior and you weren't sure about carrying on, and you'd like to talk about it, you know where I'll be. I'll be in the comments. Thanks for watching. Farewell.